Hey, it's Soul dropping the World of Warcraft, and today I wanted to talk about the topic that just won't die, Legendaries. This time I enlisted the help of my guild. AJ, Xero, and Senjien are here to help me out, and they're going to drop some of their thoughts on the Legendary system and other parts of the game too. We kind of go back and forth on different topics, maybe we go a little bit off topic here and there, but hopefully this is a good listen for you guys. I'm not going to have a whole lot of visual feedback for you guys, but early on in the video I'm going to at least try to identify who's speaking, but for the most part I hope you guys just have a good listen. Here we go.
Oh god, this is gonna be interesting.
What's up?
All right, good enough. So, I basically wanted to rant about legendaries, but doing it by myself is very hard. I don't know. Like, I was trying to talk about it and it just wasn't really coming out. So I have like some notes. I have some notes here about the things that I was kind of bringing up, and so I'll kind of steer the conversation here and there as we're ranting, and then we'll just do kind of back and forth. Let's just try not to interrupt each other too hard and all that, especially since this is my first time trying to do this, so give me a break. But I guess one at a time, let's get some thoughts on what you think about the system so far. And I guess I want to double check first, are you guys up to date on like the latest reveal that went on Thanksgiving?
The four item thing.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, in case I'm gonna say this in case I transmit this, on Thanksgiving, Ian Hazacostas, he basically let the cat out of the bag and let people know. You know, this is kind of in the face of, I have WoW running. In the case of like, there was some scrutiny from top guilds that were saying, oh well, you know, we get this many legendaries and then we're not seeing them. So what we're doing, we're re-rolling tunes. We're going as far as re-rolling tunes to hopefully
they get their best ones.
Yeah, so hopefully they get their super best legendaries or something like that. So let me turn you down a bit, Xero. But yeah, like just go ahead and start. Like I said, one at a time. Let me know your thoughts.
I thought the four item cap was pretty dumb to hear. Like when it was confirmed and heard about. Like it's supposed to be a random thing, yes, and it does severely punish those who do put in a lot of time and then hit that cap, and then nobody even knew about it. So it was like how some legendaries felt in Diablo, where you would get, you know, each character, it felt like each character was tailored to a certain set, and if you wanted to try something outside of that, well, and Senj looks like he wants to say something, so I'll give him the floor.
Nah, his freaking mechanical thing is making him transmit all the time.
Sorry, it's because I was also playing WoW at the same time. Sorry, I'll get my hand off the keyboard. No, go ahead and finish, Xero.
How the hell does Shad know what we're talking about?
Oh no, he's I just told him in the guild chat that I got his back about the legendary stuff. Him and I discussed this at work a lot. We are both in the same career field in the military, so we're able to talk to each other at work about like raids and stuff going on in the WoW community, about our thoughts on like legendaries or PTR changes and things like that. So we spend a lot of our time talking about stuff like that while we're at work.
So for you, Senjin, like, what is it that you and Chad have talked about?
Big thing is raid mechanics. Him and I mean, I'm sure contrary to somewhat some of y'all might have heard about us, we actually discuss a lot of the strategies and things going into fights and how we can improve. Basically, for a long time, I was struggling with the Demon Hunter and the whole momentum kind of thing that was going on with it, how to manage it, how to actually use it to my advantage, because I was really bad at it. And he kind of just would give me advice on like who to watch and things like that, or where I should be standing during raids, what I could do better. As we know, I've kind of had a bad string of killing myself at the beginning of a fight, and that can be a problem. So I kind of learned to throttle back. And then we kind of just discussed the overall composition we have in the raid team, kind of going forward, like who shows up and what we can count on having in the raid, whether it be like lusts or how many melee we have or how many range that we have. and how we can use that to our advantage on certain fights, like how you were talking about with Odin fight in Trials of Valor. We're pretty heavy on melee and not too heavy on the range, so it kind of hurts us when we try out certain strategies. But basically, we kind of just sit around and toss ideas out on what we can do to improve our raid fights and how we can approach it.
Any opening thoughts from you, AJ, if you're there?
Yeah. My internet's been crapping out, and I knew I was going to sound like a robot if I started talking earlier, but I think it's good now. Yeah, it's kind of rough to me because I think, you know, like a game like Diablo, which is obviously where they got some of the a lot of inspiration for the new things in this expansion. You know, a game like Diablo, if you want to get a new legendary, you just go farm on your own, you know, by yourself as much as you want to, and then you can go talk to what's the blood bitch?
Kadala.
Fucking
Yeah, Kadala.
Kadala. You know, but like
Kadala and Nomi. Oh my
you
god.
can go to Kadala, you can go farm Greater Rifts, and you can sit in there and go, oh, you know, there's a really good chance I'm not going to get it, but I'm just going to spend, you know, all of my blood shards every single day on chests until I get the chest that I want. And so there is like a little bit of targeting, and there's a little bit extra farming. And so I think it's kind of hard to take that system and adapt it directly to an MMO where most of your farming, except for your one daily cash that you can get doing world quests, like most of your farming comes from group content. And the fact of what legendaries you get kind of affects what group content you can do to an extent, at least. I don't think it's, I mean, I know you and I are both very on the same page that people think stuff is required when it's not really required. And if you're trying to go for world first, yeah. But the average player is not going to notice a huge difference from getting the one awesome belt. You know, they're going to do the exact same thing. They're probably going to kill the same bosses and do all the same sort of stuff. But I do think it is hard trying to adapt the Diablo system for a single player, sometimes multiplayer grind fest to more of an MMO style thing. And I think there's been some hiccups with it. I think it's been cool. I think they've definitely learned some things. I'd like to see some changes made. I don't know what those changes are right now. I would like to see a couple changes made, though, I think. But that's kind of my overall thoughts. They're trying to apply like a different style game system to WoW, and there's been some hiccups. Basically, sums up my opening thoughts.
Yeah. Do you mind if I chime in about the legendaries?
Go for it.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with AJ on it. My thought of the legendary process is, at first I thought it was, no big deal, as long as they don't make legendaries overpowered, it'd be fine. You know, RNG is RNG, but they did tend to make certain ones more powerful than the other, and then people were more sought off. They sought to find those more than the other ones that are weaker, like the necklace and the ring. I have Safuz's, and I'm fine with it.
I got the neck.
Yeah, see, and I don't really care, but there are those high-end raiders that do care, and they do look out for those legendaries that are going to give them the edge in the raid. And I think the one thing that they missed with it is I think people would be happy if they could target the legendary that they want. I know it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the RNG, but in a sense that I think is what's bothering people the most, that they just can't target the legendary that they want for their specific class and go after it. But I like I said, I don't have any issues with the legendary system myself. I only have 2, that being said, but yeah, I'm all right with it.
So that kind of brings me to, so I try to observe a lot of what goes on throughout, like, the vocal community of WoW. You know, what are people saying? What are forums saying? What are YouTubers saying? And things like that. And they seem to be presenting the whole legendary system as like this cancerous problem. Like it's killing the game. It's the worst thing that's ever happened, and blah, blah, blah. And they're basing it on anecdotal evidence, you know, stories that they're telling. Hey, I'm seeing this guildie get this. I'm seeing Neb get all these legendaries, and he's not doing squat. You know, there's so many small stories, but at the same time, yeah, it's hard for me to really pin it down. But it's hard for me to take even all of these stories that I'm hearing and admit that, hey, yeah, this is absolutely representative of of how the community feels, because you guys have just said earlier, oh, we want to min-max, we want to get into like top rating guilds, we want to hit world first and things like that. But heck, if you even just look as far as like, oh god, what is it, like fat boss videos, you only see so many hits on raid guides. Ultimately, there's only so many people that raid, and we don't have a really good way of gauging the number. I can't just say, oh, it's only 5% of the population. It's probably more. It might be less. I don't know. But it just doesn't seem like the whole legendary, the whole extreme problem with legendaries, which is, hitting that limit or hitting that 4 limit or whatever. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, because there just aren't a whole lot of people in that situation where, oh, I'm in a competitive guild and my spot's on the line because, me and this other person, we have like the same level of skill, but he happens to have the good legendaries and I happen to have no legendaries or like the crappy ones or whatever. So he's going to get picked. I don't, as much as people tell that story, that still feels like a super small majority or a super small segment of the population. And it makes me wonder, well, what about like people that don't give a shit about high-end rating? And I'm talking about lower than us, and we're, and we're like, and we're sewage. It's like, how do they feel?
I think it's because raiders have the loudest voice in the community. Because you're gonna find that in all the forums you go to or any of the videos that is that the people that are talking about this stuff are the raiders. They're the loudest. They're the ones that are ranting about like, hey, my character is being nerfed in the next, PTR build, or hey, like the legendary stuff about them being a soft cap with 4 is really hurting the progression of our guild. And it's the raiders that have such a loud voice and kind of try to dictate where the game's direction goes, that a lot of people forget that there's those people out in the background that are just, they log in.
Game.
Yep. Like they just log in for a couple of hours, they do this and that, they get a legendary, they're excited, and that's it. But you don't hear them because they're not checking forums for the latest changes to WoW. They play the game just to play the game.
So
I think this is one thing me and Xero were talking about last night, actually. We were talking about, like a lot of the changes to like Surrender to Madness, Fire, and also just the original iteration of Mythic rating, the way it happened. A lot of balance right now is balance based on the top 1% of players, and it's kind of unfair to balance things around that. And in the same way, completely changing how the legendary system works is kind of doing that. If you were to say, oh well, because people at the very, very, very high end, the 1 or 2 people that have actually been benched because they didn't have their best legendary, well, we're going to change the game so that those people can do it. And is that at the cost of the rest of the players?
Yeah, because
I think that's one problem.
Yeah, because when they talked about, oh yeah, we're going to lift this cap, and the reason why we had this cap in the first place was because Blizzard wanted to avoid situations where there were people that had 0 legendaries that either had really bad luck or they just very casually play, versus the Mythic 15 or Keystone 15 plus person who's doing that shit like 20 times a day, and they'll have every legendary for every spec. So that's like 15, 17 legendaries per class on that one character. That kind of disparity, what would the community feedback be based on that? Not just coming from the top end raiders, but coming from the rinky dink casuals too. They'll be like, damn, how do these people get all this stuff? Oh, is it because they just keep playing the game so freaking much? Well, fuck these, fuck this. I'm not a no lifer like that.
Yeah. And I think, take a look at Warlords of Draenor. That's an expansion they catered, in my opinion, they catered to raiders pretty heavily. They concentrated on the raids there, and a lot of people would consider that the worst expansion so far.
I thought Warlords got all the criticism because it catered to the casuals. Like, yes, everything. Like, there are a lot of things that they made to make it a casual game, like really kind of helped out the hardcores a lot. But I've never had to play so little in my life.
Yeah,
I think that's isn't that more of a symptom of the actual problem where there was just too little to do?
I think it wasn't even too little to do, although that is definitely part of it. But to me, it was more so just nothing worth doing, because you could say, oh, well, you can go get exalted with these factions, but you don't get anything. And
You get a
can also-
tabard.
Yeah, you get a tabard by endlessly farming mobs. And, there's, or you can go grind, the little daily 500 Apexis objective reward thing so that you can spend 64,000 crystals on something that has terrible stats for you that you would never want in the first place, And I don't think it was so much that there was nothing to do, although there was very little to do comparatively. Just the rewards weren't worth it. And so you could just log in, click, 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 boom. Oh, hey, cool. I got new gear, 500 gold, and a bunch of, mats for, herbs and everything because I walked around my garrison real quick. So I think that was a lot of the problem with Draenor. But they also did, they made it basically like raid or nothing. That was it. There was raiding and that was it.
There was also the garrison game, which was conceivably a good way to make a lot of money if you wanted to play it.
I meant aside from garrison, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm talking in like traditional content of World of Warcraft, whether it be PvP, raiding, PvE, solo play. I feel like there was so much more to offer for the raiders than there was on the PvP solo type play. Minus the garrison, but that's more of a recluse. You weren't out in the world doing anything the way you would on an RPG and on a console. Like every one of us has played Legend of Zelda. You don't just stay in the Hyrule area and just chill there. You want to go out and adventure and have quests and stuff like that. And there just wasn't enough of that.
I thought you were just supposed to sit there and try and get upskirted at Zelda.
Holla. So anyway, to kind of steer it back, because I know it's so fun and easy to take a dump on warlords. I guess back to Legendaries. Can we just kind of agree that most of the biggest problems with Legendaries, they're for the most part limited to raiders? Can we agree on that for the most part?
For the most part.
That and like high-end mythic dungeon stuff.
Yeah, high-end PvE stuff.
Yeah, but the people doing that are raiders, so...
True, yeah. For the most part, super high-end mythic plus and raiders, top-end raiders, they kind of go hand in hand. And at least from my observations, from all the observations and stories that I hear and everything, that seems to be what is that seems to be what Legendaries affect. So in my opinion, it's a small but very vocal and unfortunately influential part of the population.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Raiders have always, in my opinion, had a very loud voice, and it tends to be heard the most.
So, but at the same time, sorry, Zero, go ahead.
Oh, it's because they're the ones who are the quickest to go to the forums and create 30 goddamn threads.
Yes. True. We're not wrong.
So what I wanted to kind of shift towards is just kind of, so we can acknowledge that while the legendary system isn't like a problem for the entire WoW population, it is a problem, and it's something that has been addressed. It's gonna continue being addressed and things like that. But I want to go over a bit on just what the system means when it comes to people. I guess the psychological dynamics, because the way that I see the legendary system, I see it as it's one system that I can kind of lop into with artifact power, because it's a thing that you can endlessly grind for it. You can just keep going for it until you drop or until you satisfy your needs. And I think this is I don't recall another time in WoW, at least I can't recall too well, another time where progression is so open-ended. Like, you don't just have, you can't just farm 2,000 Valor and then you're done for the week. And then you can either just stop playing for the week and switch to an alt or something like that. This is something that you can just perpetually do. And it seems to challenge players' self-control. I want to know what you guys think.
I definitely agree with that. I remember I first started playing in Cataclysm, and for me, I think, when I was playing the most in terms of hours played, I had, I think, like 5 max level tunes that did the refer a friend things. We power leveled them up really fast. And then my goal each week was to cap Valor on all 5 of those tunes. And then when I started raiding, it was, okay, well, now I want to, get raid on this tune, do my Molten Front dailies, make sure I'm, staying competitive on this, and then try and get as much Valor as I can on my other tunes. But once you kept Valor, that was it. Okay, cool. I got as much as I can get for this week. And they did that in Cataclysm. They did it in, essentially they've always done it because that's how raid always worked. And raid was always the best reward you could get came from raids. And those were always weekly caps, essentially. So it was, we did our raid. Cool, I'm done. But now we did our raid. Now let's go grind Mythic Dungeons and try and do some LFRs too. And we should also try and do this. And let's do some more dungeons. And let's go do other difficulties at higher chance. And it's just kind of endless, like you were saying, that rather than have that weekly, I did the highest difficulty as best as I could and capped my 1 currency per week. Now it's just keep going until you want to gouge your eyes out. But that's the main reason why I'm not letting myself do that, because I'll hate myself and I'll quit playing, like yesterday.
So I'll let you guys chime in a bit, but based on what AJ is saying, not a lot of people agree with you. A lot of folks are like, no, I've got to see this system to the end. They don't see Legendaries as like this thing that's super passive and you just kind of get it when you get it. It's not a welcome surprise to them. For them, it's they have to win. They have to get everything as soon as possible so they can become competitive. And go ahead, Zero.
I was just going to talk about how the very endless aspect of Mythic Plus has like kind of really changed the world first races, because now these guilds don't just have their split raids that they use to maybe push as much gear onto certain people as possible. They can also go out into trade chat and like looking for people who carry through Mythic Plus. You must have valid stone, and that's it. And so as long as they have the time and the energy and the drive to punch through this crap, they can push for gear.
Also, adding on to that, I think the aspect, and this is not legendary, but similar to legendary, but just the entire aspect of the Titan forging thing, rather than see it as a bonus, like Blizzard said, hey, this way, even if you don't want to do a heroic, you still can, because maybe you'll get an upgrade. People see that as, oh my god, I have to grind this until I get all 895. And I think I think a lot of people are just approaching it the wrong way. They're trying to like max out their tunes so they can solo Sargeras Mythic on their own during fucking patch 7.0. And it's like, calm down, dude. You're okay, man. It's gonna be alright.
I don't know, man. I kind of come from the other side. I mean, you guys know I've had time to level as many characters as I leveled, and still
you do all right.
and I still show up to the raids, and I feel like I do my part for the team and everything like that. And I think that that's what dictates how much effort you should put into the game. And in my opinion, like, I want to stay with the group. I want to be good enough to stay with the pack that I'm with. I don't have to stress myself out to go out of my way to become a mythic raider, because that's not when I have the most fun. I have the most fun playing with you guys, progressing in how we progress. And I know a lot of people aren't like that. They're competitive in nature. They have to be the best. They want to be the best. But for me, this game's a game. I love the lore. I play the game but to find out what the story is. But I also love that raiding aspect of learning everything together as a team and coming together out top to kill the boss. But I just don't feel that pressure that I have to get Titan Forged everything. legendary everything just to be the best in the guild, because in the end, I think you gotta work together, and it's not one person's item level that's gonna make us succeed. It's all of us coming together and learning to fight as a unit.
Exactly. Like it's about why you're playing the game, right? Like, and those people who are playing the game to be world first, power to them, man. They put these mechanics in place that you absolutely can use to maximize your gear getting. And it just seems so weird that now a lot of people's best in slots aren't necessarily from the raids. Like, they're from Mythic 12 Vault of Wardens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that is definitely weird. I think the fact that like raids don't have the best gear, and I haven't got a single legendary from raid, and when I look through my gear, a lot of my best gear is Mythic 7 Titanforge, Mythic 8 Titanforge, Mythic 8, Mythic 8, Mythic 4 Titanforge. Like, when I look through all my gear, almost none of my gear is from raid. And I think that's one of the weird things about this expansion is, on top of the legendary being so random, and then on top of the Titan forging, it's also the fact that you don't even know where your gear is gonna come from. It could kind of like come from anywhere at any time, and I think that's one thing that I think is kind of throwing people off, is just how different the game is now. Just the way you gear, like we were talking about, the weekly cap on currency, and the weekly raid kill, and that was, oh dude, I finally got my one trinket from this boss. Well, yeah, I got the trinket, but it didn't Titan Forge up to this, so I
didn't get a gem socket.
Sim this with. There's just so much RNG now. I think the fact that WoW was so little on the RNG, at least compared to now anyway, that it was nowhere near as RNG intensive. I think a lot of people are just struggling with kind of like the transition of the paradigm, that it's not I have to get my best in slot, it's I need to have gear that's good enough to progress. And it's a different mindset, and I think a lot of people are struggling with it.
So you're saying that the increase in the amount of content that gives you, quote, raid level gear is bad?
I'm not saying it's bad.
Not bad. No, it's great, because like I might miss raid for the week, and that means if I can try to jump into mythic pluses. It just seems a bit. It's just, for people who've been playing the game for so long, it's such a shift that my best in slot gear isn't raid.
I think people are having trouble, like adapting to the new system. Like they're playing the game with the old idea of best in slot, but that's not really how it goes anymore. And so they see oh man, this legendary is the best for me, so I have to keep raiding until I get this, instead of just, oh well, we're just gonna keep farming this one raid over and over until I get my one trinket. It's, oh well, I have to do every mythic keystone all the way, and I have to do every heroic and every LFR and every normal and every heroic and every mythic and everything all the way until I get every single legendary, because then I'll be able to sim every single combination and then figure out my absolute best in slot. Oh, and then this one got a socket, so it's even. And I think just people are struggling trying to play with the old school best in slot mindset with the way that the game is now. That's what I think a lot of
people. And then I will finally be happy.
Yeah.
Until the next tier. I mean, I'm with you guys. It does kind of, I'm sure, throws a lot of people off, that their whole best in slot list and those kinds of things that are put on spreadsheets, that's totally thrown out the window, because the thing with
they're obsolete.
The thing that has the best stats, if it happens to Titan Forge to the very max, that becomes the absolute the absolute best thing, and
Leech.
Yeah, or something like that. But we think about like how things were before, as early as MOP, pre Thunderforge stuff, where we did have our best in slot list, and it was basically, we can map out all the gear that we want to farm for, and everything else sucked. So I don't know. Like, I'm more of a fan of the system as it is now, with the randomness and basically the hopelessness of ever possibly getting your absolute best thing, because when it's so predictable, because before I found it to be very predictable. It's
You ran this in this dungeon and hoped that this dropped, and
yeah,
then
like
you were done.
like you knew the name of the gear that you're hunting for because that's the thing on the list. That's the thing that you decided, okay, that's going to be the absolute best thing that I'm possibly going to get. Now that's totally thrown out the window, where that thing that you thought you wanted is not as good as the mythic titan forged whatever the heck you got from your chest. And personally, I think that's a good thing. I know that people aren't in full agreement of that, but I prefer a system. I prefer a system like that because it's less predictable. There's a bit more spice to it, and I don't mind it.
No, I don't mind it at all. It incentivizes doing other stuff than I'm gonna do this dungeon and this dungeon, and then if I don't get my gear, then I'm done for the week. Like this one actually makes you go out and try other dungeons and like play with your guilds that might need help gearing and da da da. Like I just see how it, to those who are pushing for, I have to be the very best. Like no one ever was. To get that loot is my real test.
Oh God, you're trying way too hard with that.
Yeah, don't do that.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't have to try too hard. It happened naturally. But you see you can see how they're gonna be burnt out because they do feel compelled to try every one of these fucking dungeons to try get that best in slot.
So this is nothing new. The whole
exactly,
I feel compelled
exactly.
to do this. I must do this, and
There's always gonna be the overeater who sees the all you can eat sign as a fucking challenge and not just a treat.
So, what do you guys think about this sort of open-ended, do what you like sort of paradigm? Do you guys think that there should be like limits, and at the same time like a reward system to match that? Should they bring in like a legendary vendor or something like that, where you farm a currency that they call legendary valor or something corny like that? Basically, what I'm talking about is should Blizzard do more to help players with self-control, because
No, they're not babysitters.
well, let me finish. So obviously there are a lot of people complaining and that they have to do all this stuff in order to get into like their raid team or into a pug or whatever. So how much responsibility do you guys think Blizzard should have when it comes to controlling that, or is it really like the players' fault for putting themselves into this sort of mindset?
I kind of want to see where this goes, to be honest. I feel like in the past we've always had that set goal to aim towards. We're going to do all this to get to this point and then we're done. And I feel like that can create a sense of, it can create a sense of completion of the game in a sense, but it also can cause people to just stop playing this game. And I kind of get the way the playstyle is right now is if you aren't upset with all the RNG, you could technically play this game forever, because I doubt you'll get every legendary in the game, and you could just keep on grinding it out, and there's no lack of content in that sense to what you could be gaining. You could be gaining AP for your artifact weapon, your off-spec weapons. I mean, you could always be hunting for those legendaries. So I think the way the game is right now, I kind of want to see how this turns out in the long picture, like how it ends, to see how the gamers are happy with it or whether or not. We've tried the other way. This is a different way. Let's see how it, plays out and how the expansion feels overall as a whole. I think if we cut it off now, it could end up just being like one of the other expansions we've done.
I agree with Senj. I'm interested in seeing how it all plays out.
AJ?
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting, for sure. I think over time, I know they mentioned that they were, what's the thing they called, like the bad luck protection that Ian Hassakazis was talking about. how they had it like a soft cap at 4, where after that they did, oh, well, we didn't think anyone would get this many at this time. And I think that's kind of a lot of the issues right now, is the developers having sort of a disconnect with how much the high-end raiders are willing to put in to be world first. That they are willing to give up all of their free time, all of their everything they do. Oh no, not for a week, since it dropped, since Mythic Dungeons dropped. Like, that's all they do, is they just go dungeon, and they just farm them and go absolutely go to town on them. And I think they didn't realize, because like he said, we didn't think anyone would even have put in enough effort to be at a guaranteed 4 yet. We thought, that wouldn't come around until after Nighthold or something. We didn't think people would play this much. We didn't think people would feel compelled to do this. And I think a lot of it is just that disconnect that, when you put the carrot out there on the stick, nothing will stop these people from tripping over themselves, from falling over, from exhausting themselves, going into cardiac arrest, doing everything they can because they have to get that carrot.
It's the buffet analogy.
Yeah, no, it is. No, I love that. I didn't chime in, but I absolutely love that. It's a challenge. All you can eat. And I really do. I think that's a lot of it right now is, people not just going, hey, I got 3 legendaries. They're pretty good. They're 9-10. It's, but this doesn't have my exact best one that I want.
This one didn't sim as my best in SWAT. I need the bracers in the ring. Otherwise, I might as well fucking delete this character.
Yeah, and I honestly, in my opinion, I blame that on the player. I mean, the player dictates how much they're going to play.
Oh, exactly.
I don't blame the game, and I mean, that's the 1% that's doing that,
No, in that kind of situation, do you blame the store for offering it because you had to go in there and spend all your money? Blizzard isn't engaging in predatory tactics to make you play.
Yeah.
A quick thought in there. I'll let you guys keep talking about this, but at the very beginning, when AJ was talking about the Diablo 3 systems being adopted into WoW and mentioning Kadala, that bastard woman, it did give a quick thought to my head. It's like, well, there's no blood shard equivalent in WoW at the moment. Like, what if they did do something like that? Where they offered blood shards somehow, some way, by disenchanting something, or even worse, if they made it available as a cash shop item or something like that. Yeah, that was just something I thought of.
Pay to win. My god,
that would destroy. I think
purchasable only through a WoW token.
Yep.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
I'd imagine all the legendaries I have. Absolutely. Hey guys, look! I got all these legendaries for my warrior, for Soul Machine. Hell yeah!
You're a terrible person.
Yeah, I do. I do think that could be cool. I mean, it could even just be something like, every time you clear a dungeon, you get one. And then you can go spend your Ledge of Valor Justice point of False Hope. And, you can go roll it, and then he pops up, and it's like, oh, sorry, here's 20 gold. Just like when you, use your Seal of False Hope. Every time you kill a raid boss, she's like, oh, yeah, let me throw out my Seal of False Hope. Oh, nothing, just gold.
Don't do that, man. That basically just turned the legendary system back to the way it was before. Grind out these pieces that you need 500 of, and then, turn it in to get the next quest to get the legendary.
It's basically Nomi. You're giving Nomi a bunch of shit. Come on, dude, let's see what you get me. Oh, fuck you.
Could you guys imagine?
Kill boars.
If Nomi could give you a legendary? But
kill
right now in the game, could you imagine, guys, just giving him all that food, and you're like, give me a legendary? Badly burnt food. Hey, but at the same time, now it's only mildly burnt food. No, dude, that would be great. Oh my god, if you could give Nomi gear and he put it in his oven and try to turn it into legendary. Could you imagine this? Oh my god, guys, we have to do this. We have to do this, guys.
He's gonna turn out to be Kill Jaden in disguise. I'm telling you.
Nomi's Legion.
He's been feeding us all this information.
6.3
All this
Nomi.
burning. Everything in his kitchen's burning.
Exactly.
Sargeras ain't got shit on Nomi.
I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. I believe. Nomi 2017.
So back to the kind of social stuff, and this might be a plug for me and Pow and stuff, but I guess the question again is like, is it, well, what can players do to not be such dicks about, you know, requiring 5 legendaries in order to get into this thing, because we don't. I make a super strong point, like in guild, and this is now and before, that it's like, okay, it's not that big of a deal that you have to have the best shit, you know, available for you in order to get into these runs, especially with flex and all that stuff. I mean, if we were mythic, I'm sure it would be a little bit different, but I don't know. I don't see myself, you know, telling everyone you've got to get these legendaries. I obviously see myself telling people, hey, let's get some mythic dungeon stuff going, because it looks like we're getting a little stagnant on getting gear. You know, I want to be able to progress a little bit more. Let's try to push these a little bit harder. And I'm not even talking about pushing, like, you know, mythic 10 or anything. I'm just saying do it, you know, hence my whole incentive. But I don't know, it just feels like certain people, whether they're YouTubers or vocal people in the community, they seem to try to dictate what it is that players should have. Players should have, you know, access to legendaries. They should have a legendary vendor or a way to target them. And I guess these same top raters can kind of attest. You don't entirely need to have like a whole lot of or I guess gear before in earlier expansions. They didn't need any of the cool shit in order to get world first. Some of them were in blues. Some of them, you know, yeah, sure, they were doing split rating and doing all sorts of other crazy stuff, but they didn't count on getting like the absolute best gear. They just did whatever they could, and then the rest was skill.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of why, you know, Emerald Nightmare was cleared so early, because they've always tuned all the raids to be being cleared from heroic dungeon blues to start. You know, just a couple pieces as you go each week, going out, you know, through everybody. And now it's, oh, well, how could we possibly be competitive and be able to clear this content if we don't have full 895, you know, before the raid comes out that drops the 895 stuff. And so I think, you know, there is a lot of, and I think a lot of it is, you know, the whole Warcraft logs. I mean, I'm a big proponent of logs, not dissing logs at all. Love logs. I think they're a great tool, but I think they're being misused a lot. And I think a lot of people just click on it and they go, oh, you're 77th percentile. You could never, ever, ever, ever clear a mythic, you know, raid ever with people that are doing that. And it's all because of your legendaries, or it's all because of your gear. You don't have enough Titan Forge. You don't have enough this. And I just think that people are getting a little.
Sorry, I just got to chime in that I'm taking off. Didn't want you guys to think I was being rude and just going quiet.
Cool, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, I just think people are getting a little too overboard with thinking that, you know, if you know, it's not, unless you're trying to go for world first, it's not a competition. You know, it's a PvE game. You're competing against the content. Can you kill the content? If not, get better. Try it again next week. But, you know, a lot of people, they're acting like if you're not getting all the stuff that you can to be able to first, then, you know, oh, well, you're only doing this percentile for your, well, dude, it doesn't matter. The boss died, you know. And I just think people getting a little too over to the top on that kind of stuff, personally.
Yeah. Like, well, for me, like, put it this way, I watch a lot of influencers on YouTube's. Your channel is one of the ones I do watch. Another one I watch is like Preach for actual like gameplay advice. I watch him, and I watch you for a lot of the information that's going on in the community. I watch Asmongold for like how to solo stuff. But
hey, let's leave the promotions at. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, this is it. All comes together. It's basically these are the things that I try to use to make myself a better player. And one of the things that I like about that is I try to focus on my tune, and I think that's what a lot of us players kind of forget in this MMORPG type world. Like, you are playing this character, you're playing this class, and I feel you need to learn your class. Like, don't just play it, like, learn your class. You know, learn where you should be in a raid. Like, there should be a spot in the raid that you play that you know you should be at this point, at this spot. This is your spot. Play there, know where you need to be during a raid, know how your character can react to certain situations that might occur where you're standing. I feel like a lot of people have lost that. You use the log. That's what you should be using the logs for. Like, what are you doing wrong, and how can your specific class character react in those types of situations that you're seeing doing wrong, that you seem to be doing wrong, as well as like how can you benefit the raid. And that's something I try to do when we raid. I will take the loss of DPS if it means that I have to run out and go kill this extra ad, or I have to go out and do that. And I feel like some people are on that mindset that their meter has to be the highest. I'm going to stand here and smash all the buttons I can to be at the top of the DPS meter, no matter what, even if it kills me. But, you're not going to do any DPS if you're dead.
Or you kill slimes.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that is a big part of the game that people have lost touch with, is just picking that character that you want to play, you want to main, and, learn everything there is to know about that spec/class that you're playing right now, and how you can benefit your raid group while you're in certain situations, whether it be stunning, like there's key moments when you can stun an ad, or, CC something, or you can run off the way hunters used to have to do in Siege of Orgrimmar to kill the engineers. People should be looking for those opportunities to excel in the raid, to kind of help everyone come together to defeat it. And I feel like people have started to think more on like I, myself, what can I do to get better, instead of like, hey, what are we doing wrong as a group, and how can I help this group succeed in that raid? And, that's something that I feel people can do better at.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I know, it's hard for me to like comment on that without saying anything, without sounding whatever, because that was always like my job. When I was on my rogue, it was always AJ just stand there, kill the boss, and just cloak shit and get rid of it or whatever.
And that's a big rogue. That's a rogue's.
Yeah,
rogues always get stuck with that.
That was a really important thing. Me sitting there, I remember what was it, and this does kind of count as meter padding, but it was like you were saying, a way to play your class best. I remember I was looking up some stuff, and I think what was this, Morchalk and Dragon Soul. So there was a way that if I cycled and timed feint, cloak, and feint just right, I didn't have to run out for the black puddle ooze thing. And I remember, I was just reading on the forums, I was reading on a couple guides, and, like tips and tricks for rogues. I'm like, oh yeah, let me look through this. I remember looking through it and say something like, if this happens, you can cloak it off, which really helps, because when the healer dispels it, you take a bunch of damage. The healer takes a bunch of damage, but this way you can remove a stack from your raid group. Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. Oh, and this ad pops out. You can drop a smoke bomb here to force the ad to come in and target, because he can't target anyone in the group at this point. Oh, and you can cloak and clear these things. Oh, feint works for this. Oh, you can help with this. I remember, looking through, and, the tips and tricks to the bosses weren't what gear to have. It wasn't how to maximize. It wasn't your rotation. It was just, hey, these are really cool things you can do that will really help your raid group. Pop, sprint, and cloak, and clear up all the orbs on heroic Malkarok. There's a lot of things that you can do, like you were saying, that have absolutely nothing to do with your gear, that have absolutely nothing to do with Titan Forge, have nothing to do with any of that. And no amount of gear, aside from maybe the tank neck that everybody hates, aside from that, none of the legendaries are going to help you with that. And the legendaries that everybody wants are all the ones that up your DPS. And like, yeah, DPS is great. Having more DPS is always better, but a well-organized raid will beat a raid that just does more DPS. And these world-first guilds that do it, they do it usually with like 10 to 15 average item level less than other guilds do when they get there. Like the first Archimon kill, they had like 2 weeks of mythic, or they either killed him on the second reset. I can't remember exactly.
I don't remember.
What it is. Yeah. They didn't have weeks and weeks and weeks of full clearing mythic all the way up to Archimon, and failing on Archimon and going, okay, well, we'll try again next week, and then doing a full clear of everything, and then, we'll try again next week. They did this on like their second, third week of resets, and so there was only 2 resets full of gear to go out, and they still killed it, And so if these guys are doing it with that, that's not based on what legendaries you have. That's not based on what skill you have. That's just skill, That's not based on anything else. And I think a lot of people are losing sight of that in the world first race. Like when I watched one of the Mythic Helia kills, what they had was like the warrior tank, what was it? The warrior tank heroic leap into the ocean, so the ads pop up on the boss, so then all the mages and hunters nuke them and they like die immediately. No amount of legendaries had that happen. No amount of legendaries had that. That was all just organized raid and great strategy and great skill and execution to pull it off. And there's no way that they needed a specific legendary to pull that strategy off, unless I'm wrong, in which case then I guess I really, really fucking doubt
it. Yeah. One more thing I want to add, because I'm going to have to also leave here to go to the movies in a bit. But another thing I feel players have to do is they have to learn to accept criticism. And
Fuck you, no, I don't.
Exactly. There you go. One of the things I feel like people just can't take criticism. Like, hey, you're doing this wrong, or hey, you're doing this bad. Like, I remember when I was first trying to learn how to do Rogue back at the end of WAD, when you were helping me how to actually use mouse over macros for can't go off.
Tricks of the Trade?
No, not Tricks of the Trade.
Mark for Death. Yes.
Yeah, Mark for Death.
Oh my god.
And that's something I had never done before. And that's something I hadn't done before. I hadn't even thought of, but that's something that I feel people like, hey, you should be using this talent over that talent because of this. You should be using this type of item instead of that item, like just to kind of help people, instead of being like, screw you, you're wrong, I know how to play my class and I know what's best. It shouldn't be that way. Like, people aren't out to hurt you, like they're trying to help you succeed, and I feel like people lose sight of that.
The only thing I will add to that is it is annoying when someone does come out with criticism based on, well, I read from Noxic or Icy Brain or something. Like if it's someone that is really good at their class that everyone's like, oh shit, this guy clearly knows what he's doing, and that guy says, hey, I think it'd be better if you were doing this, or I think it'd be better if you were doing this. Or if you're someone that's just really pulling up the bottom of the charts, like a couple times, we'll have someone, they're fresh, like Loka on his Demon Hunter. He was like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing. Please help me. And you're like, cool, I'll help you out. Let's go downstairs. We'll talk a little bit. You want to use this? You want to use this? Hey, you don't have enough gear to work with this because I've been playing Demon Hunter for a while. I've tried out the different builds and I see what works. I think one problem with the criticism, is when it comes from someone that doesn't really know what they're talking about, but they think they know what they're talking about. Oh, because I could read on the internet and someone said.
That's true.
That's the one thing I would add to it, and I do think that a lot of people, and this isn't just WoW. I think this is just all across, just how like cultures kind of change. Like people don't like criticism. Anything that's criticism, oh, you're just a fucking hater and this and that, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff, and I think it's dumb. And I think a lot of people, on the internet just get so bent out of shape if someone just disagrees with them. If you disagree with someone, it's like, how dare you disagree with me? And I think a lot of that spills over into the game with, oh, I'm using this talent. I think this one. You think this one? Well, how about you just go shove it with your elite? Like, dude, I'm just trying to help, man.
Yeah, and for me, like when I came into the guild, I mean, I was again like just at the end of WoD. It was Shad from the guild that actually was like, you should talk to AJ. Like he's a really good rogue, and if you are going to be playing rogue, you know, he has some tips I'm sure that could help you out. So just kind of that nudge in the right direction that somebody in the guild can always give. Like now, if I'm leveling a Shadow Priest, I know that if I need a Shadow Priest tips, I'm gonna go to you. You know, if I, God forbid, ever try to do a prop tally, I'll go to Soul.
Nah, don't go to me, dude.
Don't worry,
Soul's still trying to get his crit build to work.
All crit. I saw that video. I was just laughing.
Well, I want to make it work, man. Someday. I still have all the gear. I'm still sitting on
man.
it.
You do you.
I will.
Hey, dude, I remember though. I remember freaking first tier of mob. Everybody on every website ever said if you want to AoE as a rogue, as assassination rogue, the way you AoE is you fan and knives up to 5 combo points, and then you use Crimson Tempest. And that's what every single thing everywhere said. And I sat there and I looked at it and I was like, you know, I don't think that'll work because this thing doesn't even... Well, let me look. Okay, so let me look at all my stuff. Okay, well, this gives me energy back when I use it. This does this, this does this. Oh, dude, what if I tried this? And then I tried something that no one else had on the internet, and I've crushed everybody AoEing as Assassination Rogue. And then like 2 months later, that was on all the forum stuff. I didn't post it. I don't know who did. Someone else figured it out. But like, I figured out the proper way to AoE as an Assassination Rogue when everybody told me I was crazy for trying it. And so, you know what, Saul? I say, you do you, man. You make that crit build.
Ooh, trendsetter.
Are you challenging me now?
Trendsetter.
Yeah, dude. We can
Just
do it, baby. Make
not
that
for
crit
progression.
When's the better
Hell
time
yeah,
to test
dude.
it, though?
You know, when you're alone in the dark at like
Who
4
cares?
a.m.
Who cares if it works on farm, man?
No one's gonna notice. I'll die anyway. I'll die regardless of my build.
Yep. Well, I mean, you are, you know, one of the tanks, so we're not gonna know. We're too busy running with like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to stay alive.
So there is one thing that I really don't like about Legendaries. I guess I want to put my personal thought out there is that I'm fine with it, and a lot of it is because I am a tank, and the Legendaries don't have a huge bearing on how I'm going to play my game, unless I'm doing maybe Mythic Plus stuff. But even then, it's not a huge deal. I've already kind of settled it in my head that I'm going to be the best me that I can be without worrying about something that is so unpredictable and outside of my control to get, that I'm not going to let it bother me. So I don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with, and this is me trying to this is me trying to understand the perspective of all players, not just the top end players, but like even the casuals too, is that the system offers, I talked about this in an earlier video, but the system offers depth. You know, each legendary has a cool little effect, and we can equip up to 2 of them. So it's kind of like a glyph system, but we only have 2 glyphs, or another talent, or kind of like another talent row. But in order to unlock these quote unquote glyphs or talent rows, we need to find these items. And again, this totally falls outside of our control. So like people that make new tunes or alts or alt specs or whatever, you know, if you're coming in late into the game, you're gonna have a hard time trying to get access to, you know, to these additional things that broaden your toolkit, and that's something I really don't like about the system. But to me, that's really as far as it goes.
Yeah, I get that. You know, like if say 715, I'm not saying this at all, but just hypothetically, say 715, they decided that they wanted to cut Disc Priest healing by 40%, and then they also decided that Flash Heal is no longer around for Holy, and Shadow Priest doesn't have Insanity anymore. You just sit there and spam your dots. Hypothetically, obviously this isn't going to happen, but to say they just ruin Priest, and I absolutely hate playing a Priest now, and I was like, well, you know, maybe I'll switch to another class. And then I sit there and I look at my character, and I notice that I have no legendaries, and it's gonna take a while to get those back. And then I also don't have all of the, 880 Titan Forge stuff already there. I'm like, well, I guess I gotta start working at it now, but it's probably gonna take a long time, like months, before I have the same, overall toolkit, like you were saying, available to me that I have on my priest right now. Like that, I think that's another issue with it. Is the, and I think that's an entirely different thing. Although I do think the artifact knowledge catch-up thing's dope, but overall, this hasn't been a particularly alt-friendly expansion, just because, and I think a lot of it.
Yeah, we're in the presence of how many. Who do you have left that you need to max out?
I have my priest is at 109. I've literally been leveling him XP quest. And then my monk and my shaman, which is the one I joined the guild with. So yeah, shaman, priest, and
so that's what, 8 or 9 1/10. He has 9 1/10. Let's just get that on record for the 7 people who are going to listen. But I think overall, the main reason that this whole expansion has been less alt-friendly is, like we were saying earlier, that this is the first time that there's not a weekly cap. Because like I said early on, when I started playing in Cataclysm, it was, I get my weekly cap of Valor on all my tunes that are max level and able to get Valor. Now there's World Quest, and they never stop. I've never once been able to clear out all the World Quests before reset, because I usually end up...
We lost him.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. I usually end up, and he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, final thoughts. I love the Legendaries, and I love the Legendaries and their cute little niches that they have. I hate myself for saying the word cute, but I like the unique uses that they have, and I like that they are RNG because it allows us to keep going on trying for these Legendaries. The only issue, and I didn't get to say it earlier, was that I didn't like that they lied to us, or lie by omission. They didn't tell us that there was a soft cap. I can understand, if they would have just come out and said, hey, your soft cap is 4 for now, I would have been fine. Yeah, okay, 4, cool. But the fact that people were trying countless times to get said Legendaries, and just for it to come back empty-handed, and then told, like, oh yeah, you could only get 4. Sorry.
Well, it's not like they could only get 4. They just didn't have the whole bad luck protection thing come back in after that.
Yeah, and well, in a sense, you were again soft capped at 4. But yeah, that's my only issue, was that it was not stated. I would have been perfectly fine if they told us. I would have been like, cool, 4. I mean, I'm only at 2 now.
Hey, I'm back. What's up,
but
guys?
Yeah, I would have just
Welcome
kind
back.
of liked it like that, just for them to tell us straightforward, like that was what was the deal. But yeah, other than that, Legendaries, I kind of like the uniqueness they have right now, and it's not just one ring to roll them all, or a cloak, or something like that.
Or is it?
It is, but anyways, AJ, it was good having this conversation with you, Soul. It's been a pleasure. I have to head out to go watch Fantastic Beast.
Oh boy.
All right, guys. I'll see you online.
All right, dude.
Catch you later, man.
See you.
So the last thing we were talking about, AJ, was Xero, are you still there? Oh no, he already left. That's right.
No, yeah, he had to leave.
Right.
He just didn't disconnect.
Yeah. We were talking about the we were talking about the 4 limit cap, and Senjien was like, oh well, Blizzard lied, or they lied by omission that they didn't reveal the 4 limit soft cap, and that they should have just had been transparent about it from the get-go. And I didn't get a chance to respond, and I'll let you share your thoughts, but I just wanted to say really quick that I don't think they should have. If they had a chance to omit this information again, I think they still should have. Because if they did say, "Oh yeah, there's only going to be a limit of 4," and then this whole bad luck protection goes away, I think the community would have flipped their shit. because then they would have been like, well, which 4? Is it the 4 that we want, or is it the 4 shitty ones, or something like that? And the same behaviors would still happen, where Mythic Raiders would be like, okay, well, we got to 4, these are the shitty ones, and
Reroll.
yeah, fuck it, reroll. Let's try again, guys. And that would be the kind of behavior. So just curious. We'll probably wrap it up with this, unless there's something else you wanted to bring up. But what do you think of this? Okay.
Pretty soon. Yeah, I think the idea of having like the 4 limit soft cap, like I don't have an issue with it. I do think that mentioning it kind of, I think it puts like that little bit of distrust in them, and I think it would, like from Blizzard's standpoint, I think it would be better to omit that, because as soon as you say, well, we had a hidden system that we didn't tell anybody about, it's okay, well, what other hidden systems do you have that you're not telling us about? And it just kind of opens that little can of worms where now anyone that is upset about something as far as their character's progression with Blizzard, they'll say, oh, well, maybe there's a hidden system about this too. And now, now Blizzard might have to come out and like actively deny that, oh, well, no, we don't have a hidden system on this thing. We just had it on these other things. And I think it was kind of I think that was a bad move on their part to say that there was like a 4 soft cap. It just seems weird to mention that there's a hidden system that they never mentioned or even hinted at in any of the developer interviews leading up to it. This is something that was never brought up before, and then just out of nowhere, oh, hey, by the way, we had a soft cap, and I mean, it's gone now. We got rid of it, so you guys can get more now, but we did have one. I thought it was weird when I read it.
Yeah, I think if they just implemented it better, then it would have been something that the players would have eventually have figured out, but the developers would never have had to respond to. So, let's pretend like some arbitrary number, like 1 legendary a month, and then after this first month, if you haven't earned a legendary, then your bad luck protection, will stay kicked in. But within this second or third month, if you get a legendary for that month, then you get no more bad luck protection, or something like that. That's
I think the idea of having a cap at 4 was I don't think that was a good idea. I think it should have just been, even if it was like a diminishing return on the like bad luck boost to your chance, I guess. So like for your first 2 legendaries, every time you don't get one, let's hypothetical say like it adds 5% to your chance every time you don't get one from a cache. And then, and I have no idea how their actual system works. This probably is nothing like it. Now let's just say like it starts at 5% and then it goes up 5% every cache you open until you get one, and then it resets. But then for your next one, now it only goes up 2.5%. Next one only goes up 1%. Next, something I think more like that. Obviously, that's way too oversimplified and would never actually work. But I think doing something like that would have been better, with just some sort of number, some sort of tuning knob like they have on the PvP numbers, where hey, it looks like they're not going out as much as we'd like. Let's just just across the board bump all of those. Arbitrary base bad luck increase rates. Let's just bump them all, 0.5% or bump them all a certain amount to, get some more going out if it seems there's not enough going out. I think that would have been a better way to do it, rather than just have the same bad luck protection amount going for each one, assuming that's how it worked. I don't even know if that's how it worked, but having like that same thing going until you got to 4 and then it just stops. I don't think that's a good way to design something that's supposed to be RNG like a legendary is, personally.
And I think that's why Ian said, hey, we had no idea that people would be pushing the system like this hard. So it was obviously they made a mistake for sure when it came to calculating this sort of thing, because if they did it right, and let's say the legendary let's say legendaries were just that much more rare, I think if they cut if they cut all these values into like to like a fourth of what they are now, we probably wouldn't be having a conversation about this, because there would be less people with legendaries, or people would barely get to 4 and they wouldn't really know the difference because it's hard enough to get anyway, or it's, you know, it's so infrequent that it's not really a big deal. I mean, if anything, I think we talked about this briefly before, like if they got their first legendary, if people got their first legendary either at the end of the Ord Hall quest line, or at least for me, I think like if people got their first legendary, you know, kind of quickly, and then after that, you know, not very quickly, and kind of went to like a normal rate, I think that would be at least enough to whet people's appetite to be like, oh god, I got something. Okay, they fucking reeled me in. I'm gonna commit to this tune, or you know, commit to the damn game and play through until I get some more of this stuff. But yeah, they made a mistake. They owned up to it, and I'll at least credit them for that.
Yeah, I definitely, I think it's better to, if you get caught in a mistake, I think it's better to own up to it than just be like, oh, you don't like it, don't play. You know, it's come off as some sort of like condescending attitude like that. I don't think it's ever good for any sort of public relation thing, but I just think I think it was definitely, obviously a mistake, because like you said, they admitted to it, but I think there are better ways that they could have gone about it, and I still think admitting that there was like a hidden soft cap, I don't know, I know how tinfoil people get on the internet, and I just feel like there's going to be a lot of like tinfoil conspiracies about what other things have they not told us, and I just see a whole bunch of, you know, forum threads on, you know, that's why I haven't got my Fox mount, or, you know, where's my Invincible, how come I don't have Midnight, and just whatever kind of stuff that, oh, it's based on how many mounts you have, so I have to roll a new tune that's never collect to get a new account and then transfer. I just see a whole bunch of stuff like that going on, for me personally. So I think there's going to be some of that kind of stuff.
Well, that's something to look forward to. So we'll go.
It'll be fun.
So we'll go ahead and wrap up with this. So thank you for sticking it out to the end, dude.
I'm actually a little late for work now, but
you
good times,
dumbass.
Man. Oh, it's cool. I'm self-employed. I work when I want.
That's true.
I just tell them, hey, I'm running a little late, and they're like, okay.
Well, thanks for coming anyway. And this isn't streamed. I'm gonna cut this a little bit and upload the guy. So there's going to be more than 7 people that listen to this, I hope. Maybe like 12 people. I don't know. We'll find out. Oh, bye. I'll get into the big time, man.
Lucky number 13.
Oh, Baker's dozen, man.
Oh, dude, no, I'm hungry.
All right, get out of here, dude. I'm going to wrap this thing up. So that wraps it up for my very first Powcast. We'll see how this is received and what other things that I can possibly refine on. So definitely drop a line. Let us know, what you liked and didn't like. If you want to get more of this stuff, or if you want us to talk about any other topics, I can get these same guys, or I can get other people. So another thanks to Xero and AJ and Senjien for coming in and helping me out with this. I really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you much love. And this is me signing out. I'm Soul. Stay breezy, guys.